Chapter 4. Overloaded. Published by Royal Road. Why can I see arcane energy when I'm using the arcane attraction ability? It was a valid question. It wasn't as if Tekiel could see ambient arcane energy all the time. It was only in that specific moment that he could. I need to test this. I'll try several different combinations before reaching a solid conclusion. There is no other way. A mage was, in theory, a sort of extremely intelligent arcane scientist, highly obsessive with knowledge. Tekiel, in theory, had been born for this, because his hunger for power and knowledge perfectly exemplified the term, mage. Tekiel took a deep breath and activated arcane attraction again, using the mental image of the imaginary vortex he had idealized earlier. It was becoming easier and easier to use arcane attraction through this strange method. My energy bar is completely full. In other words, there is no practical use in keeping the ability active. Nothing justifies maintaining this continuous absorption that only drains my mental focus. But before discarding this thought, Tekiel had to find the answer to the inevitable question that arose. Where is all this energy that I'm absorbing so quickly through arcane attraction going? Tekiel wanted to test how realistic the game was. In other games, he would probably keep absorbing energy and it would go nowhere, because those games were not realistic. If the arcane energy bar is at maximum. Stats. Tekiel ordered the system to show his statistics panel. Perhaps through the system's view he could find some hint of what was happening inside his body. System description. A newly arrived mage in the world of Exodus who possesses masochistic and self-destructive tendencies. Mage with masochistic tendencies? Tekiel couldn't help but form a sinister half-smile at the corner of his mouth. The system apparently had a very well-developed dark sense of humor. Or it was simply very honest. Tekiel shook his head, ignoring that information. While analyzing his stats, he immediately noticed the loss of 50 health points, the obvious result of the nosebleeds he had suffered while trying to use arcane attraction the wrong way. In the end, the damage didn't matter. Even if he died right there, nothing would change. He was level 1 and wouldn't lose XP or whatever it was that strengthened him to reach the next level. Still, the question remained. Where was the excess arcane energy that my body couldn't contain going? But the answer was right before his eyes. Tekiel widened his eyes as he observed his intelligence, strength, agility, durability and vitality attributes. Beside the normal attributes were numbers inside parentheses. Out of curiosity, Tekiel immediately deactivated the arcane attraction ability. To his surprise, immediately after deactivating the technique, the numbers in parentheses disappeared, returning to a single point that reflected his attributes as a level 1 player. Tekiel immediately activated arcane attraction again, and the numbers inside parentheses reappeared. I understand. Tekiel said a single word before continuing to deliberate with himself. Apparently, the arcane energy is flowing through my body and boosting my capacities. My physical capability effectively doubled, while my mental capacity tripled. The excess energy was infusing his body and enhancing his attributes. But what happens if I keep absorbing energy? The answer didn't take long, because after a few minutes something happened. Drog. The arcane attraction ability had already been automatically deactivated, but that relieved nothing. The pain persisted for several long minutes. There, lying on the immaculate white floor of the temple, Tekiel could only wish for the agony to go away quickly. But the agony persisted for a long time, long enough to gradually begin fading. Why did the pain have to be so realistic? Tekiel couldn't help but question whoever the damned sadomasochist was who had designed this torture system. And as the pain slowly dissipated, Tekiel noticed something else. The vision of the blue particles, thousands of them, was also disappearing. Particles of arcane energy vibrating in the air within a 10-meter radius around him. Along with the fading pain, his magnificent ability to see arcane energy particles was also slipping away. And then understanding hit him like an apple falling from a tree straight onto his head. I understand. Tekiel immediately formed a theory. My body, as evidenced by the energy bars shown by the system, has a natural limit of arcane energy. Since I kept absorbing energy even with my capacity at maximum, I ended up overloading myself. The result was that brutal collapse, extremely unpleasant, that made him roll on the ground like someone suffering a pain similar to kidney stones. The saturated body needed to release the excess energy somehow. And the only possible answer was to channel that energy somewhere, even if it was destructive. The arcane vision was very likely an effect of the arcane energy boosting his body. More precisely, it was enhancing his eyes. And maybe, as evidenced by the extra points in intelligence, his brain had also received a huge boost, since his mental attributes had tripled. In short, all of it was just an effect of the directed energy channeling. Very interesting. Tekiel scratched his chin while connecting the scattered pieces in his mind, hungry for knowledge. Apparently, my excessive use of arcane attraction basically worked as a kind of unintentional energy infusion that caused all these side effects. Some positive and others negative. Arcane attraction, with the energy bar full, made the body circulate energy automatically, even if that was about to tear him apart. That was why he could see arcane energy in the air. It was worth it. At least now I discovered that arcane attraction isn't only useful for recovering energy. A faint smile appeared on his face. He began to think of all sorts of possibilities. His heart was warm in his chest, and an involuntary smile was forming on his face. The game didn't offer any manual, tutorial, or hint. And that made everything much more fun. The secrets he discovered would be his alone. Mine, all mine. Tekiel began laughing like a psychopath in ecstasy after concluding one of his sick obsessions. A series of laughs echoed across the courtyard of the temple of the goddess of light. If anyone observed Tekiel, they would probably conclude that he was insane. The man couldn't stop talking to himself, asking questions and answering them. In the end, maybe genius came with a little healthy madness. With every burst of energy, with every wave of light cutting through the air, Vrmmo felt a strange mix of fascination and discomfort. As a priest, he knew better than anyone how much pain was hidden behind each test, behind each conjuration far above human level. Adapting to the power system of Exodus was a brutal process, and Vrmmo understood enough about magic to know that it was tearing the champion apart from within. Even so, he continued. Even so, he advanced, thirsty to learn more and more. And, for the first time in many years, a faint trace of envy pierced Vrmmo's heart. The thought arose for only a second, but it burned deeply inside his chest. Things he had always desired in silence. But as always, he pushed such thoughts to the back of his mind. It was dangerous to feed them. The path of the dark side was treacherous. He should remain in the light. For the light was always the answer.